A splinter, a cough, a small cut while cooking. Today, these are nothing. But for almost all of human history, any one of them could kill you. No anesthesia, no antibiotics, and no real idea of what made you sick. This is life before medicine. And one doctor who discovered how to save millions of lives was called a madman and died locked inside an asylum. For thousands of years, no one knew what truly caused disease. The leading theory was that your body held four liquids, the humors: blood, phlegm, and two kinds of bile. Health meant they were in balance. Sickness meant they were not. So to heal you, doctors tried to drain, purge, or rebalance these fluids. And the cures were often far deadlier than the disease. The most common treatment was bloodletting. Doctors would open a vein and drain blood by the bowlful, or attach living leeches to the skin. They believed it released the illness. When George Washington fell ill, his physicians drained nearly half the blood in his body in a single day. He was dead by morning. Other cures were just as terrifying. Mercury, a poison, was prescribed as medicine, and one of the oldest surgeries on Earth was trepanation, drilling a hole into a living human skull to release pressure, or to let out evil spirits. Astonishingly, many patients survived it, but the worst was still to come. Surgery. Before anesthesia, this was a waking nightmare. You were held down or strapped to a table fully conscious as the surgeon began to cut. Speed was the only mercy. The greatest surgeons could amputate a leg in under a minute, and the screaming only stopped when the patient passed out or didn't survive. And many of these surgeons weren't even doctors. They were barbers. That red and white pole outside a barber shop, it still represents blood and bandages. They operated in their street clothes, with tools they never cleaned, moving from one patient straight to the next. They had no idea they were carrying death on their hands, because the real killer often wasn't the wound itself. It was what came after: infection. A patient could survive the surgery, then die days later as the wound turned septic. And the single most dangerous place on Earth to catch an infection was a hospital. Nowhere was this clearer than in childbirth. In the maternity wards of Europe, mothers were dying in horrifying numbers from something called childbed fever. And in 1847, in Vienna, a young doctor named Ignaz Semmelweis noticed a chilling pattern that no one else could explain. The doctors were going straight from dissecting dead bodies to delivering babies without ever washing their hands. Semmelweis made one simple demand: wash your hands in a chlorine solution before every birth. The results were staggering. Deaths in his ward collapsed from around 1 in 6 mothers to almost none. He had found the answer, but he couldn't explain why it worked. Germs were still unknown, and the other doctors were insulted by the very idea that their own hands were unclean. They ridiculed him. He lost his job. His health and his mind broke. He died inside an asylum, beaten by the guards. Only years later would the world realize he had been completely right, because across Europe, a French scientist was about to prove the impossible, that the world was teeming with invisible killers, too small to see, and that discovery would change medicine forever. His name was Louis Pasteur. He proved that tiny living organisms, germs, were behind disease and decay. It was called germ theory, and a surgeon named Joseph Lister took the idea into the operating room, using carbolic acid to kill germs on wounds and instruments. For the first time, surgery became something you could actually survive. But medicine's greatest enemy had always been the plagues, diseases that could empty entire cities. The Black Death, sweeping Europe from 1347, may have killed a third of everyone alive. Smallpox scarred and blinded millions, and cholera struck so fast a person could be healthy at breakfast and dead by night. Then in 1854, cholera tore through London. While others blamed bad air, a doctor named John Snow did something revolutionary. He mapped every death. They all pointed to a single public water pump on Broad Street. He removed its handle, the outbreak faded, and he founded a brand new science, epidemiology, the first time humans fought a disease with data. And then came the counterattack, the vaccine. Back in 1796, a country doctor named Edward Jenner noticed that milkmaids who caught a mild disease called cowpox never seemed to catch deadly smallpox. So he deliberately used cowpox to protect a boy from smallpox. It worked. He had created the world's first vaccine and planted the seed that would one day save billions. The nightmare of surgery was ending too. In 1846, in Boston, doctors used a gas called ether to send a patient into a painless sleep and operated while he felt nothing at all. For the first time in human history, surgery without agony was possible. The age of screaming was finally over. And then, the breakthrough that may have saved more lives than any other. In 1928, a scientist named Alexander Fleming returned to his messy lab and noticed a patch of mold, and around it, the bacteria were dying. That mold became penicillin, the first antibiotic. By the Second World War, it was saving lives by the millions. The same scratch that once killed your ancestor, now healed in days. The results changed our species. In just over a century, the average human lifespan nearly doubled. And in 1980, smallpox, a disease that had killed hundreds of millions across history, was declared eradicated. Gone. Wiped from the face of the earth. The first disease humanity ever truly destroyed. We live inside a miracle our ancestors could never have imagined. A world where surviving is the expectation, not the exception. Every vaccine, every clean scalpel, every pill in your cabinet exists because someone dared to look closer and refused to stop. A single scratch no longer ends a life. This is before us. Subscribe, and next time, we travel to the most important night in human history, the last night before fire.